coming up on today's show.
It's conference championship weekend, and Joe is betting against Kyle Shanahan. Drink. Also, he's drunk.
We're coming off the top rope with hot takes. I'll tell you why the 49ers could win if Shanahan gave me his play sheet on Sunday, and why the Titans have a better chance of winning if they don't throw for 100 yards.
Top 5 head coaches, targeted beef, and why I'm taking Ray Farmer to the Academy Awards.
All of this and much, much more on the actually, really, no joking, this is serious, Oscar-nominated ThomaHawk Show. Welcome to the ThomaHawk Show. I am your humblest of co-hosts, Joe Thomas. With me, as always, the other co-host, Mr. Andrew Hawkins.
What's up, everybody?
Hawk, how are you doing on this fine afternoon?
You know what? I'm doing good, man. Midweek, my schedule is slowed down. Things aren't as crazy. You always think that when your schedule frees up, you're going to get more stuff done. Never the case. You actually take more of a break. So, now I'm in the... Yeah, man. I've been, when my schedule is jam-packed, I actually get more stuff done because I'm already in that mode. It's the old law of inertia, Joe. A body in motion stays in motion, and a body at rest stays at rest. So that's how I'm feeling today.
Yeah, I always said that Kirk Cousins was a momentum guy, but inertia would make me sound even smarter,
Yes.
A guy that plays well for long stretches and then plays like crap for long stretches. But you are right. When you're in that get stuff done mode, you can whip through the house and clean the whole thing top to bottom. You can get all the stuff that you need to, emails, go through all your mail, get all your office stuff done. But when you got plenty of time, it's like, I got plenty of time. I don't really have to worry about that stuff. And then you never get anything done. I'm totally with you on that
Exactly.
Anyways, if you want to interact with the show, there's many ways to do it, of course. Reddit, Twitter, Instagram, at ThomaHawk Show. That's all you need to know. Join the Facebook group, which is the ThomaHawk, but everybody knows that. The one thing you don't know, maybe, it's the voicemail line. It's where we get to hear your dual set voices. 440-628-1376.
The voicemail line is actually where we scout potential co-hosts for the show. So we are listening to voices and how interesting and funny you are to potentially scout the next co-host of the ThomaHawk Show. McNown is in the lead right now. I'll say that. Josh McCown. I said McNown.
Those voicemails are always the highlight of my day because especially when something bad in Brown's world happens, we get the best voicemails, the most creative and sad voicemails, which always makes me feel better about my life. It reminds me of Mike Holmgren said that he loved to talk to Bill Parcells back when those guys were both head coaches in the NFL because he said, no matter how bad my day was going, when I talked to Bill Parcells, he assured me that his life was 10 times as miserable. Everything in his life was going 10 times as poorly. And I always walked away feeling pretty good about my role in life and how things were going. So that's the Thoma hotline for me.
Yeah.
But
I like that.
As always, don't forget, check us out on YouTube, on Uninterrupted's YouTube page. All of our shows are available there. Sunday, we always record it so you can see Hawk's beautiful face and my less than beautiful face.
No, you're a solid 7.
Nah, I'll take a 7. Seven's not bad. It's
7 out of
C
7.
degrees.
On my scale, it's only 7. Everything is shorter with me, so I don't go the full amount with anything I do.
That makes perfect
So
sense.
you're a perfect 7 in my book, Joe.
Oh well, thank you, man. I'll make sure to put that in my Twitter bio. That'll really get a good one there.
You know what shocked me this week, Joe? Do you have an idea? Luke Kuechly retiring. Didn't see it coming. Didn't even though he's had as much, concussion concern and every time, and I remember the one real scary one that he got and he was crying on the field. That was some scary shit, Joe. I'm going to be honest with you. And seeing him retire, and yes, he's one of the best linebackers of the last 2 decades. He should be a Hall of Fame player, went about it the right way, loved the game. But I'm not going to lie, with Luke Kuechly, just as scary as that hit was and watching him cry, getting drove off the sideline, I was just as scared watching his announcement video yesterday.
Really? Scared? What made you scared?
I don't know, man. Again, I think it's just he's a guy. He's a football guy. You know what I'm saying? And we're all that way. And I know that's like cliche, but he's a dude that
I was going to say the biggest cliche in the last 10 years in the NFL is we need football guys. What is a football guy? Like people that like football?
Let me tell you,
like,
Luke
there's a lot of guys that like football.
Is a football guy. You know what I'm saying? His world revolves around football. You don't come back from what he came back from. You don't. I mean, in the video, he was emotional. You can, and the thing that stood out to me that was so scary about it was him saying, "I don't want to do this." You know what I mean? And that's a scary freaking place to be. Cause in my, and it's funny because we talked about the Marshawn Lynch, or maybe we didn't talk about it on the show, but everybody's seen the Marshawn Lynch post game after the playoff game, and he's like, protect your mentals, protect your bodies, protect your chicken, and he's talking about money. He was saying a lot of guys that I play with aren't here anymore. That shit scares the hell out of me because it's true, and not just the guys that aren't here. It's being around and seeing my former teammates that are struggling. And it's like, it's easy to say, oh, you just squandered your money away or whatever. But the reality is a lot of guys didn't make that much money. And it's not a reality for them to make, whatever. And a lot of it is the fact that you can't give up something that you've been, accustomed to revolving your world around since you were 8. So when I see that kind of video and I see him say that, look dead in the camera and say, I don't want to do this. That scares me for what that process for him letting go is going to look like.
Well, I think that brings up sort of the broader point, and I'm glad you teed it up as well as you did, is today's players in the NFL, like Luke Kuechly, like Patrick Willis, like many of the other guys that have walked away perceivably before that they had to, which is typically, if you go back 15, 20 years or 30 years, guys played football until they couldn't, until they got cut, until they didn't have it from a physical standpoint. But you see more guys now that are walking away when they still have it physically because they have made more money. But that doesn't mean everybody's made the type of money that you need to be able to live for, forever without having to work again. And so I think it's actually really good for some players. You talk about the few guys that are able to make $15, $20 million guaranteed. You can walk away and you never have to worry again. After taxes, you're talking $10, $12 million. And as long as you don't just totally go Antonio Brown and just waste it all, you have no problem allowing that to keep you alive and your family happy and more than comfortable for 40, 50 years, as long as you're not crazy silly with your investments. But the hard thing about football, and this is the hard thing about all professional sports, is that you train yourself to do one thing your entire life. Like since I was in high school and through college and then in the NFL, I was training to be a football player, right? And it's a very lucrative profession. And if you can play it for 10 or 15 years, you have a chance to make a ton of money. But it's not like other professions where you can do it until you're 70, 75 years old, or even into your 60s until you reach Social Security. And because you've committed everything to football, being a professional football player, you haven't developed any of the other sides of your life. Right. You haven't gone, for the most part, to school, gone internships, done other jobs in the off season to prepare yourself for another career. And so once you get into the workforce, if you're 28, 30 years old, you're essentially starting where everybody else starts right when they walk out of college or right when they walk out of high school. So you're 10 years behind. And for an NFL player, let's say he's 28 years old, you've been at the top of your game, at the top of your profession for 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And now you walk away, but you don't have enough of a nest egg to live forever. And so you have to start over. And that starting over is what causes a lot of pain and a lot of problems for guys, because you have to humble yourself. You have to go get an internship and work for maybe a year or two unpaid. Or even if you do get a paying job right away, you're going from in the NFL to, let's say, making $500,000 a year or $750,000 or $1 million a year to making $50,000. Yeah. That's a big transition to make, because, and most people aren't accustomed to that, because most people in their working profession, in their working life, they go from, all right out of college, I'm not making anything, to I got an internship, I'm not making anything, but that's okay. I don't have a family to pay for, I don't have all these bills. And then now you're making a lower amount of salary. So you're making $30, $40, $50,000 at 22, 23, and you kind of work your way up until your retirement age in your 60s, and hopefully you're making the most money then. And so you never have to take that giant leap back, humble yourself, and go from high earning to low earning or nothing. And so I think there's the mental side of it that guys really struggle with, in addition to the fact that they're burning their money at a higher rate because they had been making a lot of money.
And Luke Kuechly has made over $63 million. So I don't foresee money being a problem with him.
No,
and
it's not him. It's the
everything
other guys.
you're saying is spot on. And I always tell guys, I'm like, don't look at the amount of money you make right now in this year as your salary, right? Let's say you make $200,000 a year. Spread that out over 50 years, and that's what you actually make, right? So you make $4,000 a year if you're making $200,000 at 22, because this is your job forever in a best case scenario situation. But anyway, even beyond that, as I was playing and I got done with college and I had nowhere to play football, and I was put in that situation where I couldn't get a job and I couldn't, nobody was, there was nothing exciting about my resume. Me playing at Toledo wasn't anything that was going to get me a job. And I was putting out interviews and I was driving to Michigan for internships, and none of that shit was coming through. When I got back in the league, I was like, I'm not going to let that happen again. So that's why I went to school at Columbia. That's why I started doing a bunch of internships, networked, started to build my credibility up in the workspace and the sports industry, wanted to learn as much as possible. And even then, Joe, when I got done, that shit was hard, because it was an adjustment of life that I just, no matter how much I thought about it, and I thought about it the entire time I played, it was still an adjustment. Even now, there's still things that I adjust to on a daily basis. When I get upset at somebody, I can't just say, meet me in the locker room and let's work this out. That's not how the real world works. As much as I want to, as much as I'm accustomed to it, and I know it sounds barbaric, but it's just, we would live in a transparent world. And even if I have that frustration, I can go on the field and take it out. We will see you on the field. We have pads on. We can work that out. Just little things like that, even now for me, are still I'm still adjusting to. So for Luke Kuechly, a guy who doesn't want to, and that was me wanting to leave. I wanted to leave the NFL. It wasn't like I was forced out. I wanted to leave probably a couple years earlier. And people said I retired early, and I was 32 with a prosthetic leg. And they were like, oh man, you got out the game too quick. Luke Kuechly was forced out due to injury. And it sounded like his family basically had an intervention with him and was like, hey, man, because when you get hit like that, when that scary shit that you see on TV and you think that's all bad for the player, when he bounced back, oh, it's okay. No, his wife, it's just like that. She goes through that hit. Their kids go through that hit. My mom went through those hits. My brothers went through those hits. My aunts, my uncles, my sisters stopped watching me play in the NFL the last 3.5 years I was in the league, because they couldn't stand sitting on pins and needles to see if I was going to get knocked out by somebody who was 4 times my size.
The hits that you take are worse on your family than they are on you. Because
Absolutely.
me, I'm willingly going out there. I understand that every time I put my helmet on, whether it's practice or a game, there's a good chance that I'm going to get injured in some form or fashion. You as a receiver, it's probably going to be you knocked out. They're carrying you off on a stretcher. You're going to be not of sound mind and body for a significant length of time, which happened to you a couple times throughout your career, even with Cleveland. And I'm sure it happened beyond that. For me, it was a little bit different because you don't see linemen get knocked out as much because we don't take those big car crash hits to the head quite as often because we're not exposed going over the middle like you are, and we're much bigger people. And so our brains don't rattle as much, but we get the wear and tear injuries of the joints, of the backs, the knees, the hips, the ankles, the shoulders, the elbows. Like those are the things that blow up when you're on the field. And like my good buddy Alex Mack laying there on the field and he's pounding the ground because his leg is pointing in 2 different directions.
Right.
For us, we accept that risk, but our family, they get drug along unwillingly. Exactly. They're the unwilling participant. Now, there's plenty of benefits, of course, from us playing football, but they're the unwilling participant that shows up every day and doesn't really care if we win or lose. They just don't want us to get hurt.
Yep. That's so true, man.
I'm curious how you guys think about your physical health now, based on everything that's been talked about with CTE and a lot of players I know from your generation and past generations getting addicted to painkillers. How do you guys think about that now as fathers who want to see their grandkids grow up?
So there's a lot more information right now available to NFL players, the science, the research around what football does to your body, to your head. It's so much better than it was. So we're making a much more informed decision. And I think that's part of the reason you're seeing a lot of guys stepping away while they can still play, because they understand the risks that they're taking. And one thing you need to know is that the older and longer you play, the more significant every injury is, because here's how it works. It's like a parabola for those math majors, right?
That's a good word.
Year one, you get one injury, right? Okay.
Inertia, parabola.
That injury may get better. Okay, let's say like me in college, I tore my ACL in college. All right. That injury is going to be healed, but it's never the same, because you're always going to be dealing with the remnants of that injury. Like, for instance, when I tore my ACL, I had cartilage damage. I had meniscus that broke away that they just cut off, and it's gone forever. And you've got that damage now in your knee joint that every day you play on it, every day you walk on it, gets a little bit worse. Even though nobody sees those injuries, they're still there. So now that injury in year one is one injury, but in year two, it's going to lead to two injuries. And then those two injuries are going to lead to what's 4 injuries.
Yep.
2 plus
Something like
2
that.
times 2, 4.
We're good with words. Math isn't our thing.
Then you have 4 times 4. So it's like a factorial. It's 16 injuries. And so the injuries just keep piling on themselves because they never actually heal totally. And so by the time you're in year 7, 8, 9, you've got all these injuries that you've accumulated throughout your career that just keep getting worse and worse, even though you're still able to go and slap some tape together and bandage them up and get out on the field with some braces and some harnesses. You can play, but those injuries are always getting worse. That's why a year at the end of your career is 10 times harder on your body long-term than a year at the beginning of your career. And I don't think people really understand that, because even though you could be mostly healthy, you're not even on the injury report. Every player that plays 10 years has a significant amount of injuries on their body, and one extra year playing is significantly worse on your body. And it's only a matter of time before the leak springs somewhere else. It's like being on a boat and just keep plugging holes. You're going to keep plugging holes, but eventually those holes start springing themselves open. Mm-hmm. And then pretty soon you don't have enough thumbs to be sticking in all these different holes. Yeah.
And if I had a nickel for every time someone told me that, we wouldn't have to save our chicken. You know what I'm saying? You feel me? So you talked about like the hits and being scared. I'm not going to lie, man. For me, it's just kind of a hope for the best. Like you see the statistics or you see certain cases and it's literally like, I don't want to know. I'm just going to pray and hold out hope that I'm one of the cases that it doesn't go catastrophically bad for in the back end. And in the meantime, I'm just going to continue to try to develop as a person, as a human, reach goals, raise my family, enjoy my time with my family. You know what I mean? Because that's any of us. John, you might walk out here and get hit by a bus, right? And it's like, if you didn't work in Hollywood, if you would have went and moved to Albuquerque, you probably wouldn't have got hit by a bus. There's not as much traffic there. So the decisions we make, we understand that there's consequences to it, and it could put you in that way. But the shit is scary, man. You have no idea what it's like coming to, right? Unless you drink too much. But coming to at, 12 a.m. at night and everybody telling you what happened in your life for the last 9 hours because you have no freaking idea. That is a scary, waking up in a hospital and not know, and it's happened to me multiple times where I woke up surrounded by family. That shit is freaking scary, man. I'm telling you, it's a chilling feeling. And even thinking back, like the longer that time goes on, the more scary it gets thinking about the situation.
I just thinking back briefly, the 3 scariest moments in my NFL career were when I was standing on the field watching things happen to other players. And just off the top of my head, I think you're probably 2 out of my top 3 scariest moments.
Yeah.
When you got hit when we were in St. Louis, I forget who the big fat defensive lineman was.
Fairly.
Nick Fairley, he totally cheap shotted you and you guys were running in different directions. He was like 350, you were like $150, and I thought you were dead. Then in Pittsburgh, I think it was the last game of the year.
Yeah.
There was an interception and then I don't know, I remember, was it Jarvis Jones hit you?
Yeah. It might have been. It was actually a couple weeks after the St. Louis game. It was literally like, because that was the game that I came back from a concussion. Yeah, and Jarvis Jones left his feet right at the crown of my head, and I only know that because I've seen it on video.
Yeah. Colt McCoy getting hit by James Harrison.
That was scary for all of us. I remember where I was at in that moment.
Actually, another one with James Harrison when he hit Mohamed Massaquoi coming across the middle. This was kind of in the beginning of when the NFL was not allowed to sell big hits to its fans anymore. Mm-hmm. If you remember that, I think they put it on like the cover of one of their magazines or something. It was where James is hitting Mohamed, and basically it looks like he's doing David Copperfield magic trick and he's sawing him right in half. I mean, it was just a devastatingly gruesome hit on the field. And actually in that game, James took out Josh Cribbs and Mohamed Massaquoi, two devastating hits like that. But going back to John's question, I think of it twofold. One is, as a football player, you get beaten into your head to understand that I can't worry about things that I don't control or that are already done. And so the hay is in the barn with the head injuries that I sustained during my football career now that I'm retired. Like, it's already been done. Worrying about it is not going to make it better. I can monitor it. I can understand what I went through, what my brain has gone through up to this point, but I can't worry about it right now. And the other part of it, and I think this is how most NFL players should look at it, is I need to monitor the research, understand what the NFLPA is doing, take that information and try to do everything I can from this point forward to try to help my brain and help my body as well as I can. And I know one of the things that they talk about is continuing to learn, continuing to push your mind, because your brain is like a muscle. It can grow, it can heal itself, it can learn new things. And the process of learning new things keeps you fresh and can help keep that dementia, keep some of those brain issues a little bit at bay. You can help yourself by continuing to stay engaged and stay active and do mental gymnastics, mental exercises, but also healthy lifestyle. You know, guys from the 70s and 80s, a lot of guys that have significant issues, and some people could say that it was the head injuries that caused this, but if you have a destructive lifestyle where you're into drugs and alcohol and you have poor nutrition, that is not good for your brain either. And so trying to lead a healthy lifestyle as well as you can, trying to keep your brain active, doing the mental gymnastics, trying to learn new things all the time, trying to challenge yourself. Those are things that can help. But in the end, the damage has already been done. And so all you can try to do is take the research and the science as it comes out and do the best you can moving forward and not worry about it.
There you go.
If they developed a test, which I know they're trying to do, to be able to detect CTE in current players who are alive, would you guys be interested in taking that test?
Yeah, I would take it.
Sure.
You have to,
if
it helps
under
you.
one caveat though, Hawk.
Yeah.
I need to know what that means for me.
Yeah,
because
for sure.
They're doing CTE studies on cadavers and guys that have passed away. And they're saying, yeah, everybody has CTE. Well, what does that mean? Like, I understand CTE is the tau protein that develops in your brain after trauma and bad hits. But that doesn't mean that everyone goes crazy and deals with suicide, depression, alcoholism, violence, all those issues that CTE sometimes means. And so to tell me that, okay, you have CTE, you have tau buildup on your brain, unless I know what that means, I can't properly navigate how that affects my life.
Right. Well, I think it's
and what I should do about
it. It's a lookout thing, right? Where it does, you know, like, for instance, we're out in public and someone is like, yo, Joe, can I get an autograph? And then every time you go to lunge at that person and I stop you, right? And the times that we've been together and you go to punch the fan that asked you for an autograph, I'm like, Joe, don't do that. It would help give us a reason why that is happening, right?
But it's so hard because causation is not always correlation. And that's where it could get dangerous. It's like, oh, I really want to go and have a bender tonight with my guy Hawk because he's on that Mountain Dew pizza high again.
Jacked up on Mountain Dew, baby.
Maybe that's just my personality. Like, how do we know that has anything to do with playing 11 years in the NFL and 15 years of college and NFL football? Like,
well, because
we don't
you wanted
know.
to drink the Mountain Dew through your nostril. That was just weird.
It has to be. You have to be a little bit careful. You have to be cautious with giving somebody that information because that could give you a reason to excuse behavior that might be totally unrelated. We don't know. And we don't really have any good answers at this point for, hey, you have CTE, you have tau in your brain. This is what we can do to make it better. It's like, sorry. So actually, now that I think about it and talk through it a little bit, John, I don't want to know. I don't want to take those tests until there's something that we can do to make it better. If they tell me that's what I have.
You can't figure out how to make it better until you can detect it, Joe. You understand that, right?
But I'm saying
we can't say here's your level of CTE, and now we have a solution. And oh, look, we can measure it again and say it's getting better because
what I'm saying, maybe you missed my point. My point is, I don't want to know if there's CTE and tau in my brain unless that I can do something to make it better.
Yeah.
If all they're going to do is say, yeah, you have CTE and tau, then I fear that people, maybe even myself, would then use shitty things that happen in my life through no fault but my own as an excuse of, oh, well, that must be the CTE talking.
Well, it might be, though.
I think it could then you could talk yourself into things. Like, so for instance, my mom, she walks into a room sometimes and forgets why she walked in. She forgets where her car keys are.
Uh-huh.
But that has nothing to do with her NFL career because she had no NFL career. So how much of this is normal aging? How much of the things that happen throughout the course of a year or a life have nothing to do with football and brain injury? But if you found out that you had CTE, you would just be like, oh, it's over. I have no chance. I forgot why I walked into this room. I forgot my kid's birthday. It's over. I shouldn't even try anymore. Well, give me a reason to know so that I can make it better, and I'll find out. Well, but if you can't make it better, I don't want that on my brain all the time, on my mind.
Yeah, but I think it's two-part. Number one, your mom should have got the NFL looks that she deserved. Again, I still think that's not cool. And
they were holding her back. They kept telling her she could only play wide receiver, and she wanted to be quarterback.
She could have done anything she put her mind to. The other thing is, just because
great arm, that Sally Thomas.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone talks about it. Wisconsin legend.
It was their athleticism. That was her downfall. They wanted to put her at receiver.
It was that, and sometimes she sailed out routes to the front side of the field. But I don't want to get off on a tangent there.
She had a hard time. She always threw the post versus cover 1 and cover 3. It was a mental block. She couldn't.
During that time though, the defenses were different, and the D coordinators, like, they were used. The West Coast offense was just coming of age. But anyway, so. Around
R.I.P. Mom's football career.
The diagnosis, it does help you define, like, yes, you're right. That might not be the cause of your mom forgetting her keys. But if you have some sort of baseline, we can see how things progress, and it will define, right? So what you don't want to do.
That's not necessarily true. There's plenty of people who've been given the diagnosis that they have CTE, but they haven't showed any symptoms. It's not 100% correlated with symptoms.
So you're saying just because you don't have all the answers, you don't want any of the answers. I don't think that's the right way to think about it.
We don't have anything that we can do outside of the things that I just mentioned, keeping your brain active, try to live a healthy lifestyle to improve wherever your brain is.
Well, you can't make brain damage better, but you can figure out you can improve how to live your life. There's conditions that people have to live with, right? But you do figure out, you are at risk for this. You should do this here, right? This other thing might help you mitigate some of the symptoms that come along with this, whatever your symptoms
But we don't have that other
may
thing.
be. Yeah, we do. There's other things.
We don't.
I'll give you an example. Concussion, right? There's no way to cure a concussion. Okay, when I had my concussion versus Pittsburgh, the one we talked about earlier, I sat in a dark room for months. Light hurt me, and I still to this day can't describe what the feeling was, but I didn't feel right. And that's not a description that anybody can take and say, yeah, I know what you mean, right? And the same with a lot of people who are suffering from issues with the brain. They don't know what it is. I can't tell you what I'm feeling, but I don't feel like myself. I don't feel right. Now you, Joe, you may feel perfectly fine. And it may never affect you in that way. Just like a concussion, everyone has different reactions to concussions. Where I might go unconscious and have amnesia for 9 hours, the next guy might just see stars and be back fine, and it might heal different, like every injury. But when I went to the doctor in Pittsburgh, and his name escapes me right now, but he's a concussion specialist, and they ran all these tests to me, and I had to be there. It was like 10 hours worth of tests, and we had to run the treadmill, and you had to do all these different things and cognitive and eyes here, eyes there. And I sat in a room for 30 minutes, and then he came in with all the results. And as he went down the paper, he said, now this is what I'm seeing. You're probably feeling these 3 things, right? Yeah, and when this happens, you probably feel some version of this. Well, yeah, it's exactly what I feel. Well, here's why. Here's how your brain was injured, and this is what needs to happen for it to get better. Until that, you're going to always feel like this. Now, without you telling me, I bet that you feel like X, Y. And it was like a weight was lifted off my shoulders. I literally just had this conversation with another player when I recommended him to go see him, because it is a helpless feeling to know something is wrong and not being able to define it. So regardless of whether you can get it fixed or not, for your own sake, because you don't know how that's going to affect you. You don't know how it's going to affect your wife, your kids, or people are thinking like, yo, daddy's acting different, but daddy has no idea that he's acting different. The people around you, if they're able to say like, oh, okay, I'm seeing something, or the kids are seeing something, or you might be able to catch things yourself and say, oh, I know what's going on with me, and this could be a possibility, whether it is or not, it's out there. So you have to be yourself. You yourself have to be trying to mitigate it, but your family around you can also do things and be aware of what's going on with you the same way that you said.
So that makes sense. So if you're having symptoms, to be able to find out why you're having those symptoms, that makes sense to me, because I think then that would help you cope with the issue that you're dealing with, whatever that underlying issue is. But my question, I'll pose it back to you, is if you're not having symptoms, do you want to know if you have CT and tau?
A lot of times you won't know you're having symptoms. Sometimes you will. It's like a concussion, right? Like when we talk about, oh, why did that guy go back in the game? Well, that guy is essentially drunk, and he's not operating under a normal. Like,
so if you or your family member suggest and suspect that you're having symptoms based on your football career, and I could understand that potentially they could make things better and give you mechanisms to cope by telling you, yes, this is a result of this tau buildup in your brain, and it's probably because of football. I could understand that. But let's just say kind of the question that John had was, should everybody in the NFL just go get tested? If you could test all the living members of the NFL, whether you were having symptoms and you realized it, or your family members realized it or not. Yeah,
because you want to have the ability to say, okay, enough is enough. At least if you're a current player.
Oh, a current player, I give you a little bit. Like, as a current player, you want to know.
So okay, as it stands,
but here's what I'll say though. I guarantee every NFL player right now that had played a contact position, outside of kicker, punter, probably has some form of CTE and tau in their brain, because if you look at the studies that they've done up to this point, and I haven't looked at it in a while.
Yeah, and
we obviously didn't prepare for this.
Not to cut you off, Joe, but I want to be very clear to the listeners. Don't take what we're saying as fact. We are not neurologists. We really have no idea. Like, we read the same articles you have access to. Don't go repeat this to people as if we know what the hell we're talking about. We don't. Read real studies, articles. If you want, get real information. Me and Joe are just having our conversation. We're happy you're here joining us. We're all family. But we're sitting here in front of our lockers in Cleveland, Ohio, talking after a very difficult playoff practice as we get ready for the AFC Championship game. Again, I am so tired of playing in January. It is getting exhausting. I just want to go on vacation. So also, the other thing is Luke Kuechly just announced his retirement today. And so this is off the cuff and based on knowledge and discussion that I had with NFLPA and with medical people from about a year ago. So I'm sure that the technology has changed. Right. The understanding of concussions and how football affects the brain have changed in a year. But as far as I know, as of right now, discussing the Luke Kuechly early retirement, in quotes, situation, this is live up to the second. Joe and Hawk Brain. Yeah. Go. Like, you guys will be able to listen to us and probably diagnose us with whether or not we have CT, because this is off the cuff. This is impulsive. So there's no preparation. It's like, hey, man, let's talk as if we're experts about something we've given almost no thought to today. All right, let's do it.
When Marshawn Lynch said the thing about bodies, mentals, and chickens, first of all, he said chicken and chickens, which confused me. Yeah. But then when he said chickens plural, my first thought was, I wonder if Joe has chickens. Is he taking care of them?
10 cows. I know that. Joe, do you have chickens?
No chickens, but 10 cows.
Okay. Take care of your cows too.
Take care of your cows and your chickens.
Take care
Since
of your
when
cows
do we
so you can have good
say
tomahawk steak.
chickens is money?
It's different. Everyone has different, slang for money. Out in Oakland, chicken is like, yo, that's money. Take care of your chicken.
What about chicken heads? Because I think that was a little
that
bit
was
different
old school. That's different. That's not a money head. Chickens is not like they're now separate, right? Whenever you add the head, it's like they're now two separate things and no longer connected.
Precisely.
Go on a dictionary for that.
Yeah, and young suburban white culture, being a chicken is not a good thing. It was like, oh, you little chicken, in the hood.
You chicken.
Yeah, where Marshawn is from. If you got chicken, you're doing all right for yourself. All right.
I have so many more fan questions for you guys about just everything you guys are describing about like post-player life and just that perspective. But I think we'll save that for an off-season show.
That's a perfect off-season show that we will devote every angle you can imagine to. And in that one, we'll actually do research.
Maybe we can get a neurologist on too. I think it might make for a fun off-season series to talk.
There you go. I know one. I know a good neurologist, Myron Roll. He's a player too. So we could do it on a Wednesday because Wednesdays are for the players.
That's right.
All right, well, let's get into some conference championship talk, man. We got a special, championship weekend edition of 3 and Out.
3 and Out.
Oh, nice. A little scary off. All right, so we got 3 football games left in this season. The best 4 teams remain. We got producer John teeing up 3 questions for each game, and at the end, Joe and I will pick a winner. John, get it started.
The Packers played the 49ers in Santa Clara in late November. The Packers had 198 yards of offense, and the Niners won 37-8. Guys, why will the Packers-Niners game on Sunday afternoon be any different than the one we saw in late November?
Well, it's going to be different, one, because you're always better the second time you see an opponent. And I always say that the game is usually closer the second time you play an opponent. Like in the NFL, you always play your division teams twice per season. The first time, especially if you're not real familiar with each other, if you've had a new coach or a new offense or a defense or a new quarterback, it can get a little bit sideways because you're not that familiar with the ins and outs. But just like when you go back to training camp, and at the beginning of training camp, it always seems like the defense has the best of the offense. Your offense and defense by the end of training camp typically are a little bit more evenly matched because you kind of know what that team or that side of the ball does well, and you're able to kind of focus on taking that away, and you just kind of know each other a little bit better. And I feel like that's what's going to happen out in Santa Clara because the Packers got shellacked the first time. It was not pretty. The 49ers got the best of them. It really started with the pass rush that the 49ers have. They've got those 5 studs up front that really gave the Packers a lot of problems. But schematically, now the Packers realize like, hey, we can't just let those jokers rush the passer all day. We're going to have to come up with different concepts. We're going to have to focus a little bit more on the run game. We're going to have to focus a little bit more on bootleg, play action, because we just can't stand back here and let Aaron Rodgers get abused. That's not the game we can get into. And so you start to develop a game plan that can kind of get away from something that you've proven you're not good enough to beat the other team at.
I'm going to say those are all really good points, and it's true. It's why division games are so tough to pick because these are teams that are so familiar with each other, not just over a season, over years. But I'm going to say it won't be because I actually think these games come down to the coaching because LaFleur has been with Shanahan throughout this entire kind of coaching experience in their careers, and I think Shanahan kicked his ass because he's taught him everything he knew. And Shanahan also knows how Mike Pettin thinks because he coached for Pettin. And there's a famous clip online of Pettin not wanting to throw to probably one of the best receivers to ever wear a Browns uniform. And Shanahan,
Kenny Britt,
rightly being like, are you ridiculous? We get down here, baby. We throw it up to our number one guy. And by throw it up, I mean do a double pick route to make sure I get my first touchdown of the season.
Hawk, have you ever caught a fade route in your entire life?
Have I caught a fade like straight up
end
jump
zone
ball?
fade? I'm not talking about like back shoulder, middle of the field. I'm talking like they threw it up and you went up and mossed somebody in the end zone.
I think like once on a reality show with a one-on-one. That's not my like honestly.
Irvin,
when coaches are like,
Walker.
"Hey, we're going to throw you in a fade," I'm like, "That's stupid. Let's figure out another play." Because it's not my thing. You just know your limitations. Like that's not the thing that puts me in the best position to win. But yeah, I think the 49ers are still going to kick their ass. They're at home. I think a lot of these assistant coaches are PO. They didn't get some of these job openings, and it's going to all come rushing right at the Packers, who looked good last week versus the Seahawks, but I don't think the Seahawks at this point in the season are the team that the 49ers are.
That tees up our second question in our 3 and out. Hypothetical nonsense. If you locked both of these smart, young, handsome head coaches in a broom closet before opening kickoff, would either team gain an advantage?
So if you gave them like 7 minutes in heaven? What are we talking about here? Like, I
No,
don't.
separate broom closets.
Oh, okay.
They can make out for the 7
I'm like, what is that going to
before the
prove, John?
coin flip.
What the hell kind of question is this?
I mean, I know they're close, but I don't think they're that close.
John
All
has
right.
a secret crush on these coaches, if you can't tell.
Hey,
not a secret.
undercover young, good-looking coach, Kevin Stefanski, handsome dude. You got
He's
to,
got a nice beard, very nicely
No
lined.
one wants to say it because he's with the Browns, but you got to give the man. He's only 36, former college football player, young dude, has that like George Clooney old thing that girls like sometimes.
That's a good point.
Like
That's a
with,
good
you know,
point. You think he lets Junebug
like a
in on that
daddy
beard?
vibe that
Is he
girls
letting
like.
Junebug line that baby up before the press conference?
Huh? Oh, yeah. Definitely. Junebug hit him off real quick. Make sure his shit was clean once he got up on stage.
Do you know that Junebug is the only employee in the Browns facility that's still there from 5
Patton
years
years?
ago? They've literally cleaned every single human being out of that entire building.
Except the
so
barber.
it leads me to believe that I think Junebug, the team barber, is actually the snitch. He's the one that keeps snitching to the media all these different rumors. I'm telling you,
found
just
it.
watch out for that guy.
We found the anonymous source.
He's the anonymous source.
Yeah, if you lock both head coaches in closets and let the teams play, the the Packers would win.
Why?
Aaron Rodgers. And if the Packers do win, it'll be because I'm not trying to hate on LaFleur because I think they're a perfect mix. And I think what happens is everyone gets stubborn, right? Rodgers wants to run his offense a certain way because this is what I'm good at. This is what I've done. Every player gets to that point. Like, Joe at one point was like, I'm going to kick step the same way I've done for 10 years. It's worked. If it's not broke, don't fix it. But what LaFleur has brought in is, that a different kind of approach to the offense that complements what Aaron does, and it opens a lot of those downfield passes up for Aaron more than it has in the past, and it's making it a little easier on him. The 49ers have a good mix of that. LaFleur and Rodgers have been perfect for each other, but when Rodgers, if it just comes down to just players playing with no guidance, it's Rodgers, right? And I would say the same thing about Russell Wilson. We said it last week. Like, those are guys who can call plays just as well as any offensive coordinator in the league for their teams because they know it that much.
Here's the under the radar matchup that nobody's talking about. Do you know, Hawk? It is the Mike LaFleur versus Matt LaFleur passing game coordinator bowl right now because Matt LaFleur is the older brother of Mike LaFleur, former Cleveland Browns assistant, offensive line coach when Kyle Shanahan was there. And Matt LaFleur, obviously we know he's the head coach, offensive coordinator for the Packers.
Yep.
But Mike now is the passing game coordinator for the 49ers. So not only does Mike Pettin know Kyle Shanahan's offense pretty well, but you got to think Matt LaFleur and Mike LaFleur know each other pretty well and what they want to do, although both of them did learn from Shanahan. So in the end, Daddy's still on the 49ers.
Drink.
I read that head coach LaFleur wanted his brother and Shanahan blocked it. How do you guys...
It got real messy at Thanksgiving after
that. It's been weird. It's been a weird year.
So I guess the nature of my question is how much of a head coach is we agree these guys are both great head coaches. How much of being a great head coach is what you do Monday through Saturday, and how much of it is coaching the game on Sunday?
99.9. The in-game decisions are overrated because typically you see those big call sheets on the sidelines. Those have everything that they need to know throughout the course of a game. And if you gave me Kyle Shanahan's call sheet and it was 3rd and 1 in the game, I would look up 3rd and 1 and there'd probably be 4 plays and all 4 of them would probably be scripted for success. And typically they're in order. So yeah, you could see, and based on your own personal experience and coaching history, you can say like, oh, the game is unfolding a little bit differently than we expected. So these first 2 plays may not be the best on 3rd and 1. So I'm going to go with 3 and 4. Yeah, maybe. But for the most part, like you're scripting that entire call sheet so that when it's 3rd and 7+, you can call any of those things and they're probably going to be just as successful as any of the other ones. And so Most of the work that you do as a coach, as a head coach, as a play caller happens Monday through Saturday.
Hawk, you agree?
Yes, I do.
Third down, who you got? Packers at Niners.
I'm going 49ers, like I said earlier. I think the 49ers get the W. Too good of a football team. Packers have done well, but the train stops here, Joe Thomas.
Oh. Well, I'm glad you did that because this is going to give me an opportunity to crawl back into the race here because I'm taking the Packers. You know why? Because
you're a homer.
Just like I said, the first time you play an opponent, sometimes because of the unfamiliarity, you can tend to struggle because you don't really know the strengths and the weaknesses and how they match up quite as well. And even though Kyle Shanahan is one of the best coaches in the NFL, I'm going with Aaron Rodgers, the experience, being in this situation before in his career, seeing that this is his opportunity to win one with Matt LaFleur, where you feel like you're truly a partner instead of being kind of an underling to Mike McCarthy and Mike McCarthy's offense. I just think that Aaron Rodgers is going to get the football late in a close game, and he's going to do Aaron Rodgers things that are amazing. And even though Jimmy Garoppolo really has played very well and he's a very good quarterback, I still like a close game, putting the ball in Aaron Rodgers' hands and seeing what he can do. I think he's going to come out on top.
What would sting more for Kyle Shanahan drink? The 28-3 comeback loss in the Super Bowl versus the Falcons as an offensive coordinator?
Yes, you don't even have to tell me.
Losing to his understudy in the NFC Championship game, in the game he's favored in at home, and the culmination of his entire experience as
it wouldn't even be close. It wouldn't even be close because when you're up 28-3 in the Super Bowl,
but
you basically are sizing your finger up for the ring on the sideline already.
But it's an offensive
in
coordinator
this game,
role.
like you're going into it going, yeah, we think we're going to win, but it's not a foregone conclusion. 28-3, foregone conclusion, you win. So the disappointment would be far greater.
No, I'm not just, but it's not just
what
losing.
happened in the Super Bowl versus
you're
right
losing
now.
to an understudy. And a
It doesn't
game
matter.
you're
Like,
favored.
he has lots of respect for Matt LaFleur. The reason that I was the first media member, first lowly media member, I shall say, to say that Matt LaFleur would be the perfect head coach in Green Bay is because I knew how smart he was and I knew how well he was working for Kyle Shanahan and how much he learned from Kyle and how he was going to be able to use that information and succeed when he got an opportunity. And
Joe,
Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay Packers was a perfect opportunity.
Honest question. What would it take for us to go back and work in the front office of a football team? Except
like
for the
dollars?
the truckloads of money they would give you. Would you consider going to work in the front office of a team?
No, I'm far too happy seeing your pretty face Sunday night after my kids go to bed when the last thing on earth I want to do is talk on Skype to anybody in the world. I just want to close my eyes and go to bed. I'm far too happy doing that to go and waste my time in the front office somewhere.
All right. Touche.
What about you? What about you?
I think it depends on if who would be hired as the head coach in the organization. I wouldn't just jump on anything because I've gotten offers to come work in front offices, but nothing has like excited me. And I'm like, I don't know those people. And one thing I don't want to do in this part of my life is work with people I don't like. So if I don't know you, there's a high likelihood that I could not like you. I might like you, but I'd rather work. Like when Josh McCown gets a head coaching job and he calls me and he says, Hawk, I want you to come work. I'm probably going to pack my shit up and go. And that's the honest to God truth. It won't matter the money because that's my guy. I want to go do cool stuff with a guy that I trust, I think knows it, and I would follow all over the place. But I know I could do it successfully, man. I predicted the analytics coordinator role that the Browns were going to have this year 5 years ago.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, so there's they want an analytics guy with a headset on during the game to basically
that's what
help
everybody in the NFL
with the numbers.
does now. That's why I kind of laughed at how up in arms people are about
Analytics.
The analytics person being on
Influence.
a headset. The Browns have had that for a while. From what I understand,
I don't know about
I
that.
can remember back to the Mangini days, and he had somebody on the headset who maybe wasn't considered an analytics person, but he was helping with the in-game decisions and making
'cause
sure that
that
A, the
guy
coach
was
didn't
listening
screw it up,
to the
and
headset
B,
of
if he
the
had
other
any questions,
team.
he could help him. What?
He had audio feed from the other team's headset. That was Mangini's guy. Wasn't an analytics guy. Espionage guy. That was the espionage coordinator. All right, what do we got next, John?
AFC Championship Sunday evening, Titans at Chiefs. Am I tripping, or do the Titans need to actually pass for more than 100 yards this week to beat the Chiefs?
Whew.
Or can Derrick Henry just put the team on his back all the way to the Super Bowl?
I'm going to let Joe answer this because all three of these questions I could throw away because I don't think the Titans have a freaking chance in hell.
Here's what I'll say.
And I'm only saying that so they play me on the hype video, and that the ThomaHawk Show gets we create the beef so we get the marketing.
I like that. Targeted beef. The whole goal of the ThomaHawk Show this football offseason is targeted beefs. So actually, why don't you guys call the ThomaHawk hotline, 440-628-1376. Give us who you think the ThomaHawk Show should start beef with in order to raise our national profile.
There it is.
We were just talking about this, right? Colin Cowherd, he targeted Baker Mayfield, understanding that Baker is one of the young, fresh faces in the NFL, and starting a beef with him would be phenomenal because it gets people to listen to what you have to say when you beef with famous people.
Yep.
Skip Bayless. Nobody would know who that bum's name was if he didn't always go on tirades against LeBron James constantly. His entire shtick is built around hating LeBron James and everything he does. So the ThomaHawk Show, we need a high-profile beef. So please hit us up on the ThomaHawk line and let us know who you think should be our targeted beef this offseason.
Let us know.
I think we're now beefing with Colin Cowherd and Skip Bayless after that.
Yeah, I would imagine that would be a good start.
That's a good start. Those are two of the top guys in national
Joe's a
media
tough one to
voices.
beef against. I would beef against Joe with no problem. I do it every day, and I actually enjoy my time as the chief beefer against Joe. But he's a tough guy for those other guys to beef against. When you have so much respect, it's hard for you to paint somebody in a bad light because it's like a battle you can't win. So it'll be interesting to see who the fans give. And we'll organically start a beef. We don't mind. We don't care. We'll act like it's real. Yeah, we're all into it. All right. So yes, they need to pass more than 100 yards.
So I'm actually going to go no. I'm going to say if they pass for more than 100 yards, they lose the game, right? It goes back to the old
Makes a lot of
stat.
sense.
Here, this is what you guys got to give me a second to explain myself. Explain,
All right.
Joe, explain yourself.
Joeself.
Explain yourself.
Please rise. Court is now in session.
Explain myself? Explain yourself. So if they
Explain myself?
pass for more than 100 yards, to me, that means the game is probably close or they're behind. And if they get behind at all in this game, it's over. But if they're able to get out to an early lead because of maybe turnovers or somehow they get the kickoff and they run it back for a touchdown, special team scores, or maybe they just
equipment doesn't come in.
First drive and the Chiefs don't have their equipment truck to show up on time and they were playing against air for a few drives. They have an opportunity to just ride Derrick Henry and that great offensive line and chew up time and keep it to like 50 plays per team game. That's what they want. But it goes back to the old stat about if you run the ball more than 20 times in a game, your success of winning is like astronomical, right? And I remember the media people would always go to this stat about, wow, you got to run the football to win in the NFL because if you run more than 20 times, the success rate for winning is huge. Well, you know why you run the ball more than 20 times in a game is when you have the lead in the fourth quarter. So that stat should also read, when you have the lead in the fourth quarter, you have a high chance of winning. Well, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. But that doesn't mean the causation and the correlation is there. There's no correlation between those two. And so it's just like this. If the Titans are forced to throw the ball a bunch and get a lot of passing yardage, a la the Kirk Cousins garbage time in the second half when you're behind, they will lose. If they're able to have the lead the whole game and they don't make Ryan Tannehill throw, and he's throwing the ball fine. I mean, it's not like he's a bum, but if they're throwing the football though, that means it's close or they're behind and that means they're going to lose.
I love that take. The Titans need to pass for less than 100 yards to win. That is piping hot. Hypothetical nonsense. Is Andy Reid on the hot seat if the Chiefs lose this game?
No, that's ridiculous. There's no way Andy Reid is in the hot seat.
Hawk could just see his media career dissipate before his eyes if he
Yeah.
would have said that Andy Reid is in the hot seat if the Chiefs lose. No, Andy Reid has done a phenomenal job. It really doesn't matter if he loses this game. Obviously, it's going to hurt his legacy if he loses this game because that's going to be the narrative. Oh, he can't win the Super Bowl. How many times has he been in the playoffs or been at the AFC Championship?
Which is
been at
ridiculous.
The NFC Championship and lost. He can't win the big game. But if he ever wants to put himself into that upper echelon of head coaches where people say he's a Hall of Fame coach, he's one of the greatest of all time, he needs to win a Super Bowl. He needs to get there a couple times and he needs to win at least one. But he's not in the hot seat.
He's not in the hot seat. They
He's
beat
one of the
Bill
greatest
Belichick
coaches
and they
in the
beat
NFL.
John Harbaugh, the other two top coaches in the NFL, on the way to go into Andy Reid. So if he did lose, he wouldn't be on the hot seat.
Here's your question, Hawk. Name the top 5 coaches in order right now in the NFL, in your opinion.
Ooh, in order.
In order.
All right. There's never a world where I can't put Belichick number 1.
It's got to be. He's the best of all time.
Right. I'm going to go to, geez, this is with no teams in front of me. I'm going to say Andy Reid. I like Andy Reid at 2. I like Kyle Shanahan at 3. Drink. I like Mike Tomlin at 4. 5, Carroll.
So I like your 1 and 2. I'm
Okay.
going to go Belichick, Andy Reid, but I'm throwing Pete Carroll in there. And
Okay.
I know that could be controversial because Pete's
That's
been in
not
2 Super
controversial.
Bowls and he's won 1. So he's got a better Super Bowl resume than Andy Reid. But to me, Andy Reid doing it in Philly and then totally resurrecting the Chiefs franchise and just the moves that he's made with Alex Smith and then getting rid of Alex Smith and drafting Patrick Mahomes and how they've just been steadily fantastic for a very, very long period of time, going way back to when he was with the Eagles, doing it with multiple quarterbacks, to me says he's a better coach than Pete Carroll, who's only done it with Russell Wilson. And that's part of the reason why I think Belichick is looking forward to playing maybe next year without Brady, because the mantra and the brand forever right now is Belichick has done it with Brady, and some people will always say it because of Brady. And so he wants to prove that he can do it again with a different quarterback. So I've got Belichick, Andy Reid, Pete Carroll. Then I've got Mike Tomlin, and number 5, Kyle Shanahan.
So we got the same 5. You
I
could
would
argue.
say same top 5, and a 6 is Sean Payton. He's like right there.
Yeah.
But being that he's had Drew Brees all these years
Forever.
and he's only won 1 Super Bowl and they've never been to another Super Bowl, it just feels like he should have been
It's a
able
little
to do more
disrespectful.
with all of that.
We're a little disrespectful for not putting Sean Payton in the top 5. I'm going to be honest with that.
What about John Harbaugh? Any case to be made?
Yeah, definitely
Yeah,
a case to be
he's
made with
close.
John Harbaugh. But he had some really, really down years.
True.
Not really down years, but I mean, Flacco wasn't good. I think John Harbaugh's a good coach because his ability to change up. You know, I still feel really good about those top 5.
I like John Harbaugh because of his leadership, and he is like the true what everybody wants from a CEO head coach, where he's going to hire the offense and defensive guys, and then he's going to stay out of their way, but he's going to hold them accountable. He's going to have discipline. He's going to structure practices, meetings. He's going to hold his players and his coaches accountable to a high standard. He is the prototypical CEO coach that everybody wants. But I just put him a little bit outside, and there's some clear Kyle Shanahan bias going on here.
Obviously.
It's never even been
Come
to the
on.
Super Bowl as a head coach.
Come on.
We're putting him in our top 5, and we accept
Duh.
that. We're okay with Kyle Shanahan.
We're
drink
fine
bias.
with that.
There's actually more good
We
head
just like to
coaches than
drink.
I realized.
Yeah.
Zimmer, Peterson, Vrabel, LaFleur, McVay.
Vrabel's in my top 10. And this is coaches, and we're not talking about the best coaches ever right now. Obviously,
Just
if you
the-
did that
just the
list, it would
current
just
coaches.
be the guys who won the most Super Bowls. And obviously, if we were starting our teams right now and for the next 3-4 years, we had to get a coach, those are my top 5 coaches that I would consider.
Yeah, I like that.
I got the Rooney Rule. I'm all good. I'm set.
So
It's a good situation for head coaches going
There you
forward.
go.
All right, what do we got next?
Third down, who you got? Titans, Chiefs, Hawk. You're taking the Chiefs.
I'm going Chiefs.
yeah, it's hard to
Carrots.
pick against the Chiefs. I just, in spite of what I just said about Ryan Tannehill throwing for under 100 yards, that means they're going to win. That just tells you the likelihood of success for the poor Titans. They need to win the turnover battle by +3. They need a special team score, and they need to play nearly flawless throughout the game. They don't have to be spectacular. I mean, they're going to have to run for 150.
They're going to need Derrick Henry to run for 180 in a 4th straight game.
Yeah. Here's all the things that need to happen for the Titans to win this game. They need to have 3 sacks. They need to have +3 turnover margin. They need to have 150 yards or more rushing, and they need to get a score on special teams. If they can do those very few 4 things and
get the
easy
W.
things, they will win this game.
Watch them do it all
and still lose.
and still lose by 16 when the Chiefs put up 68 points. All right, so next up, we're going to answer your listener questions or what we think are your listener questions. It's time for our favorite segment, Trick Plays.
Trick plays. Trick plays. Trick plays.
Oh, we got to redo that one, Chris. I mean, this is the first time. I mean, you missed on that one. Can I say that? Is that wrong to say? There was some off. Let's get back. Let's figure that one out. I'm kidding. That was awesome. All right, what do we got next, John? Tee us up.
Question 1. Hawk, how do you feel about adding another accomplishment, executive producing an Oscar-nominated short film, to your prestigious resume?
It feels good. It's awesome. We've been saying we're Oscar nominated here for a couple of years now, and I think that was just manifest destiny. I don't think that's the right term, but it was me manifesting that to actually come true. Yeah, executive producer on Hair Love, which is nominated for the best animated short at the Oscars. So super exciting stuff, man. Who would have thought, man? That's crazy.
So maybe you can explain to me, do you get to go to the Oscars?
I don't know. We'll see. I just got off the phone with the director and writer yesterday. It's weird because there's so many people a part of these films, as you would imagine, right? And you really, from the Academy, only get like 3 tickets. And then the fact that Sony ended up coming on late, then they get a certain allotment and they have the certain connections. And it's like, okay, I'm an executive producer, which means, I was one of the first people to champion the film being made and what it stood for and, help get attention around it and gave notes throughout the whole process. But then there's the actual animators, the actual directors, the actual writers, the actual people who are like, there in the day-to-day. So we'll see. It's not, it's 50-50 right now whether or not I'm going to the Oscars. Because the other thing is, if it was just one ticket, there's a high likelihood I would go. But do I want to go to the Oscars without my wife? That is the question I have to ask myself.
Hawk, you get 3 tickets to the Oscars because you are the director, producer, and you wrote Hair Love. Obviously. After what you've just said, that's what I took out of it.
That's what you got out
of
it.
Who are the 3 people that you invite to the Oscars?
Oh, man. You
can invite anybody. You don't have to invite just people you know.
It's me plus 1? Is it me plus 3 or me plus 2?
It's you plus 3.
Me plus 3.
Because you're going to win. You obviously get a ticket for the winner.
Right. So I'm good. Definitely my wife. You got to take your wife, right? That's
okay. So you got 2 more.
My mom went to film school.
Your mom went to film school? I didn't know that.
Yeah, like later on in life. Like she went to film school. She literally just graduated last year from film school. She's 61. So like she, deep into the film world, loves it. It would be an incredible experience for her to go to the Oscars. Yeah. She might actually leapfrog my wife, to be quite honest, because my wife would be like, "You should take your mom if you got an extra ticket." She would Keisha would say she would think it was incredible. So that's number 2, and number 3 would probably be.
I feel like you got to go outside the family for number 3.
Yeah, I was going to say
not like somebody you know, but go big.
Right. I'm going to go 3. With
your side piece. This is your show piece that you're going to be wearing on your arm.
Probably Brian Hoyer.
That's exactly what I thought you would
I'm going to take Ray Farmer. Since he negotiated my contract to the Browns and it saved my life. It's either Ray Farmer or Jimmy Haslam. One of those 2 are going with me to the Oscars for that.
I feel like Jimmy wrote the check, but it was Ray that decided that you deserved the check.
Jimmy,
so I would
Jimmy didn't knock on my door.
Now that is a great
Ray
answer.
Got it. Yep. Ray Farmer, you get to go to the Oscars. I'll be contacting you. All right. Next question.
Do you guys think that was a real question or a plaintiff producer question?
That was a real question.
Producer question.
That was a real question.
Yeah.
Damn, you're good at this and I suck.
Question number 2. What do you guys think of the Browns? What do you guys think of the Browns hypothetically moving on from Baker Mayfield to try to get Cam Newton?
Moving on from Baker Mayfield to try to get Cam Newton. I love Cam Newton. I think he's had an incredible career to this point. I do think he still has some very good years left in him, but I don't think we've seen enough from Baker to jump ship and say that he is not the future. Like, just from an age standpoint, it doesn't make sense to invest in somebody else when you haven't seen what the full potential of the guy you have is. And the flashes of greatness you did see looked better than you've ever had, really. So I just don't think that makes sense, even though I love Cam.
I think that's idiotic. I think Cam Newton right now is at a crossroads in his career where most of his career success has been because he has a great arm, but he also has paired that with an ability to run the football and steamroll people. But because of injuries and age, he's not exactly doing the same things with the football in his hand as a runner as he used to. But he never developed himself as a true pocket passer. Like, he's just not the type of guy who's going to survey the field and just pick apart a defense. He's never been that guy. He's always waited until players get open and thrown him the football. And he could do that because he paired that with a great running ability. And so if you take a guy like Cam Newton right now, you're getting a guy that can't do any of the things that made him an MVP. And so getting rid of Baker Mayfield, who to me is still potentially one of the greats in the NFL. Now he's got some growing up to do. He needs to progress his game and take the coaching and get a lot better. No doubt. Everybody knows that, but he still has the potential. He is a blank canvas right now that can still paint MVP and Super Bowl on it. And so there's no way you'd want to give him up for Cam Newton.
So basically he's younger. Go with Baker Mayfield because he's younger. Because Joe just said that Cam couldn't survey the field. He was an MVP. But go with Baker Mayfield because Baker Mayfield clearly surveyed the field.
If you were going to give me Cam Newton,
year, John,
give me Cam Newton that's 27, and I would say you've got a chance in the next 5 years to win the Super Bowl.
Right.
But
no, I agree.
Now, Cam Newton
younger.
at 30 or whatever he is, 31, moving forward, I don't think Cam Newton wins the Super Bowl.
No, I agree.
That's my deciding factor.
We agree on that. We are saying the same things. We show our work a little different.
You were definitely disparaging my take.
I was disparaging.
You just said was the exact same as your take.
Yeah, but you said the reason why is because he can't survey the field, and I'm like, so what has Baker shown you to show that he can survey the field? That was my question.
He's shown me that he's
my
younger
thing was
and that he
one's
can
younger
still learn
and with no injury concerns. That's why I went with Baker.
Do you guys think that was a real question or a producer question?
That was a dumb fake producer question.
Producer question.
No, hey, give me a little credit. Cam Newton, that was a dumb listener question. I don't have the names in front of me, but shout out to the listener.
Don't say that name on television.
Yeah. So it was a dumb idiot. Shout out to @Kristen42 from Mayfield, Georgia.
That was actually an ad hoc one, by the way.
There are no dumb questions, only dumb Twitter handles. Question 3. When you guys are in line at the grocery store, do you put the stick down for the person behind you so they can put their groceries down?
Joe hasn't gone grocery shopping in upwards of 2 decades, number one.
That's
number
true.
2.
I don't waste my time shopping anymore. It doesn't matter if it's a paperclip. I'm ordering it on Amazon and I'm having it delivered to my house because I don't have the time to waste.
He's like, I don't know. Hold on. Let me text my grocery shopper that I have on salary.
Just going to the store, it doesn't matter how close the store is a waste of an hour in your day. And when you've got 4 little kids, you have about 2 hours of free time to yourself every single day. And that 2 hours, the last thing I want to do is going to any store. So
yeah.
I order it on Amazon. You can get Whole Foods, I think, delivers, or you have Instacart. They can deliver whatever groceries you want. But if I were to go to the store, it's the responsibility of the person behind to put the stick down to divide the person in front of them from their order.
Another dumb question. Yeah, you put the stick in front and you let the other person worry about the back end. Dumb producer question.
Joe, producer or real question?
Producer.
No, that was another listener question.
Man, you're really getting a sense of what we
not
think
any
about
better
you.
Every
than
time you guys
I
call
am.
him dumb, I'm just going to not read the person's name because I don't want to call him out, but you know who you are.
But he also probably changes it. I mean, it's like, when we say this is a dumb, stupid, idiot producer question, who the hell would ask this dumb question? He's like, hey, yeah, no, that's a listener. Crazy listeners. They're wild.
He's on to me. Question 4. How often are you guys asked to be an investor? And have you ever made any bad investments?
That's definitely a producer question. Don't want to get ahead front of the court, put the cart in front of the horse here. But I get asked to be an investor at least once a week.
You ever make any bad investments?
Yes. I have. I invested into this damn show.
Yeah.
You're
We've still
sitting
yet to
on
get
it.
paid, by the way. 2 years in, and I'm still waiting for that first paycheck.
Hey, man, it's going to be glorious. It's going to be
It's gonna be
13
amazing.
million. It's adding up. It's accruing interest. I'm smart.
Yeah, I hope so. I would say that I don't get asked quite that much because I've said no so much that people just realize like I'm not throwing money at dumb stuff with no business plan and no experience. And have I ever made a bad investment? Of course, I've made plenty of bad investments, but none of them were like the seed fund, like starter investment where, hey, give me $1 million and I'm going to come up with a technology company or something.
And Magic Beans.
So I have
a tech
missed
company for
like
you to
that.
invest in. We'll talk later about that.
Yeah, okay, perfect.
Real question or fake question?
Fake
That's
dumb
a
producer question.
Producer question.
No. Another real question.
Okay, now
This
we got to
strategy
start.
of just
This one
guessing
comes
all
from
producer
Tim Bates of
questions is not
Facebook.
paying off.
Thank you, Tim Bates, for the good question. Number 5.
Tim Bates from Facebook. He works for Facebook, and he asked that dumb question.
No, he submitted the question on
No,
Facebook.
I know. It's not a dumb question, Tim, and I don't believe these are all listener questions. Now we got to have a third party coming to the trick play segment because I don't trust producer John. All right, next one.
Which skinny players would look the funniest if they got fat? Kind of like Joe Thomas, but in reverse.
Skinny player who got fat.
Which skinny players would look the funniest if they got fat? I have one.
Johnny Manziel looked funny when he got fat because he was so skinny. He went from like very skinny. Did Johnny get fat, or I think he got really skinny? I think he did get fat for a second. He like the skinny fat thing we're talking about. We're up in the shoulders. You can't really tell till they take the shirt off and they're on the beach. And paparazzi catches you.
John, are you going to tell us who you think? You teased it.
Oh, sorry. Darren Sproles. I think would look really funny. I think if Darren Sproles gained 75 pounds, he would look hilarious.
Possible. The running backs put on weight quick.
If he gained 75 pounds, he would look so obese. It would be outrageous because he's so short. Short guys don't gain weight well.
Wow.
That's why I think they would look funny. He looks like
rude.
Super Mario.
I think Joe
I got
looks
one.
funny.
Josh McCown.
Yeah.
You know why? Because he already kind of looks like Ivan Drago, but he's pretty skinny. So if he got like a little bit heavier, I think he would just look like the most badass like movie killer / boxer of all time. If he was like 270, he would look like a henchman from any movie you could possibly imagine that needed
villain.
like the Eastern Northern European white guy with the like crew cut or flat top blonde hair.
Strong
And the
hair.
square jaw with a little bit of chub.
That's a dumb producer question. I'm going to say dumb producer question until I get it right.
Producer
Yeah.
question.
That was another real question from
Stop it. He's just
Spooky
making
Jeff
Oh my
on
gosh.
Twitter.
He's definitely
I'm telling you, we
making
got
this
so
up.
many great questions this week that I didn't have to add many, if any.
They're only dumb if you ask them, John. So
set
any
up the
listeners
last one's gonna
listening,
be
we're not
producer
calling your
questions.
questions dumb. We only think the questions John asks are dumb.
I accept that. Last one. What does Little Hawk, parentheses Austin, think of the new Browns head coach? And what did he think about Freddie?
I was thinking about this earlier today when I seen this in the rundown, and I'm like, man, this is definitely a dumb producer question. Just kidding. I think that's a listener question, but we'll get to that in the appropriate part of this segment. I was thinking about this with Austin earlier, and he is 7 years old. Okay. He became a Browns fan in the golden year of 2014. Kyle Shanahan was the offensive coordinator. Drink. Since he's been a Browns fan in 2014, he is on his 4th head coach.
It's his fault. He's the one.
I was thinking about it, like, what was it? Because I remember when I introduced him to Coach Pettin, like as the coach of this team, right? And he was used to Marvin Lewis. And then I remember when Hugh Jackson, and it was like, oh, we got a new coach. And then I remember when he's like, oh, they kept Freddie Kitchens. It was a little less excitement, but now the dude is just already at 7 years old indifferent to who's the head coach of the Browns because he's on his 4th head coach already. And we do it so much, it's normal to him. So there was literally no reaction. It was like, oh, cool. And we'll see what happens.
Technically, his 5th head coach is Greg Williams.
Yeah, technically. But we don't count interims. You can't count interims.
It's like the winningest head coach in Browns history.
True. True. Very true. So yeah, he's all in though. He's like every other Browns fan. Like, if he does it, awesome, but I'm already scouting the next guy.
Did you share that photo of Austin with the Browns gear, or was that just internal? Or was that on Twitter? Did I see that?
Yeah, you seen it on Twitter. I put it on Twitter. How he sleeps with Browns blanket.
You think there's anything
Browns
that
pillow.
Hawk doesn't put out there for the social sphere?
People
Come on,
think
John.
I share a lot on Twitter.
The man is a social media whore.
But I actually don't share any of my real life on social media. Like, it's like such an abbreviated version. You get what I want you to get, Joe.
But I mean, I've seen your house on social media, seen your kids. Some people don't even share that much.
Yeah. No, my kids are, I share that much, but not like what is actually going on.
Right.
Like, very rarely do I ever share Instagram stories in real time. So typically, if you see Instagram story, I've recorded the whole stories and I'm putting it out days later.
That's why all those workout videos are fake.
They weren't in real time. They were probably a day late because I never want people to people are sick, man. You know?
Hawk works out at 11 a.m. and then posts it at 4:30 a.m. the next day.
Exactly. I'm asleep.
Do you guys think the Austin
Auto post.
Do you guys think the Austin question was a real question or a fake producer question?
I'm switching up my strategy. I'm saying that's a fan question.
I'm going fan question as well.
It's a real
No,
question.
you only did that because that's what I said, so you can keep your commanding one guess lead.
No, I did it because I got that. People tweeted me that, so I can go to it and be like, look, someone did ask that.
It's a real Instagram question from Real Sub. So I had one producer question in here, but it was about Luke Kuechly, so I cut it. So these were all real questions. 6 for 6. Thank you, ThomaHawk.
All right, I went 2 and 5. Joe, what'd you go?
There were 6 questions.
I was 1 and
I don't
6.
know. 2 and 4.
So I was 1 behind your
I don't do
pitiful
math, man.
performance.
All right. Well, as long as I beat you, that's all that counts. That does it for this episode of the ThomaHawk Show. Appreciate everyone joining in. Joe, what are your final thoughts, man?
I should have written them down because I forgot them.
Yeah, well, that's perfect. Welcome to the CTE episode of the ThomaHawk Show. Make sure you tune in next time. Love you guys. Joe Hawk yourself.